Well, good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here in your new home, and great to be invited back. So thank you so much. This morning, something Jesus always used to tell me, that if you want to be enlightened, you need to lighten up. How many of us right now, with what's going on in that world, and Spirit revealed to me a little spiritual rap at 4:30 in the morning a couple years ago. So I thought I'd start off today with a little bit of fun, and if you want to hear a great little message, okay? It says, "Hello humanity, how do you do? This is a spiritual message from me to you. A message of hope. I would like everyone to see how God loves us all equally, regardless of our race, our religion, or our nationality, that we are all brothers and sisters, part of one spiritual family. As a student of life, aren't you just a little bit curious? I mean, what is the truth of all this? To fully understand the sole purpose of humanity is to finally discover the solution to world peace and sustainability. Have you noticed how change has been happening at a faster rate so the world can release all of its fear and its hate as we raise our vibration to a higher rate? It's the why that is missing to connect the dots, to heal our world and expand our thoughts. The same simple truth, it's been taught for thousands of years. So don't you think we have shed enough tears? As we do unto others, we do unto ourselves. These spiritual laws, they are perfectly built into life itself. So how much pain, war, and dis-ease is it going to take before we're finally willing to embrace our fate to consciously participate? Now, God never judges us. I want you to know that daily life, this is our opportunity to heal and to grow, to take back our power to love so we can embody on earth as it is above. Have you noticed how the lessons, how they just keep coming back? Well, this is life. This is God trying to get us on the right track until we finally figure out the fact to align with the divine plan is where it's at. Because consciousness, this is our awareness to see beyond what we believe is reality. Fear, pain, death, separation too. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you, but they just aren't true. That daily life, it is more than it appears. This is our spiritual training ground to open our hearts and to let love out. Because love, this is the binding force of all reality, the very essence of life, you and me. And the more we give, the more we receive. Life is a perfect spiritual system. I want you to see it is perfectly set up for you and me to fulfill our cosmic destiny. Because heaven on earth is what we are here to co-create. So what do you say, fellow humans in healing? Are you ready to step up to the plate? Yes. Right? Now, I have to admit, when Spirit gave me that at 4:30 in the morning, I'm going, you know I'm white, right? I'm like, okay, right, okay, cool. But see, that's what the whole thing is. I have a great sense of humor, and right now, you know that life is getting our attention, right? Life is, well, there's a lot going on, and we see, I love that idea that the pain, what's going on in the world is coming to the surface. And it comes to the surface so it can be released and so we can be healed. Does that make sense? That we live in a perfect spiritual system that is supporting our soul's growth and healing. I like to share with people that what you're experiencing right now is an opportunity of a lifetime. The opportunity for the perfect union of soul and spirit. And there's really only one conspiracy, and that is life is conspiring to perfectly express itself in, as, and through you. Imagine that you are perfectly designed. Every major religion refers to the body as a temple. What are temples built for? What are they designed for? Communion, right? Communion. What is communion? Conscious union. The conscious union of soul and spirit. This is what Jesus exemplified as the Christ consciousness. You know, we talk about the second coming. The second coming is when all people stand in the conscious union and the Christ consciousness. And this is the opportunity of our lifetime. Life is not meant to be difficult. Think about it. Did the law of gravity, did it exist before Newton? Or were people just falling all over the place and hitting themselves? Right? And then, does it matter if you believe in the law of gravity? Or is it supporting you at all times? Does it work perfectly? So if you hurt yourself, is it the whole idea of karma? Is life out to get you? Or is it just giving you feedback so you can better understand how the law works? Isn't that amazing? Now, do you have to believe and accept Newton in order for the law of gravity to work for you? Or does the law of gravity work equally and impartially for everyone? Now, the great thing is that with conscious awareness of the law of gravity, it gave birth to what? The age of science. Did the birth of the age of science, has that changed our world? Look at the technology that we have. That came with the conscious awareness of these physical laws that govern our lives. And right now, we are at an unprecedented new era, which is the birth of the age of spirituality and sustainability with the conscious awareness of the law of life. Imagine that. So just like the law of gravity, when we work in alignment with it, we see that, oh, it's really happening for me. How many people do you know who go through life feeling that life is happening to them rather than life is happening for them? How many people do you know going through life trying to do it my way, sort of my will be done, rather than the idea of, oh, thy will be done? How many people do you know who pray to God like God doesn't know anything? I always find it so curious that people pray to God like he's so stupid. You know, it's like, yeah, I didn't know you needed that, you know, by the way, thank you for letting me know, right? I mean, this whole idea of do we come from separation or do we come from connection, right? I always thought it was curious that, you know, everybody wants to go to heaven, but no one wants to die. You know, and most people, we have all these religions where people would rather be right, than to look inside. And yet in every major religion, where do they say the kingdom of heaven is? It is within. Isn't that interesting? I had a friend of mine who recently read a book about this woman who had a near-death experience. I don't know, you've probably heard of her too. She's spoken to a lot of the spiritual places, and he emailed me the description of her near-death experience. He said he wanted to get my feedback on it. And I read her description of her near-death experience, and I said, well, welcome to my world. She didn't have a near-death experience. She actually had a near-life experience. She got to experience life beyond the ego, beyond the veil of separation. She actually got to experience connection with God, and what she got was an appetizer. She doesn't have to wait to die again in order to experience that. We're meant to experience it right now. That is the normal. As a body, as a temple that is built for conscious union, how many people use their body as a vehicle to get through life, kind of use it up, and then try to get the most out of life and get old and die? Right? And then they get old and die. I mean, I remember after my dad had triple heart surgery, I got in trouble with my family because when it got announced that he was going to need a triple bypass surgery, I got all excited. And my mom and my sisters began to cry. And that's not a good thing, right? And they're like, what are you so excited about? I'm like, my God, isn't this amazing? We found out that he needs a triple bypass surgery before he had a heart attack. They do 4 of these a day, 7 days a week. It's like getting an oil change, you know? I'm like, we might have the guy around for another 10 years because we just got this great news. Even though it's an emergency surgery, it's really great. And the fact is, my dad's had a wall of protection around him this big. As much as I love the guy, as big of a heart as he has, no one's ever gotten really close to find out who he even is, or he doesn't even really know who he is. So all of a sudden, guess what? The universe, I was so excited because I could just see the universe was breaking open his sternum and literally, physically opening his heart to actually let him experience the fullness of his divinity, of who he is as a human being. And I was like pumped, going, oh my God, I might even get to know him. He might even get to know me. He might even get to know his children, his grandchildren. This is an opportunity. This is awesome. I'm like, what are you crying for? You know? That was the start of a whole. My sister's, she's like, you're an alien. I go, no, I prefer galactic being. Alien is a bit limited. And then she says, there's my proof. There you're just making my point. And I'm like, hey, I'm adopted. I'm allowed to make points, And that's the beauty of being adopted. You can just claim to be a citizen of the world. You don't know how you got here. You just know you're here. And at the same time, you know that you can feel that this body is a temple. How many of you have you felt, did you ever get a tingle in your spine? How many of you got you get the goosebumps, you get a tingle in your spine? Why do you think that is? How many of you are curious about that going, oh, ooh, that felt good, right? Isn't that interesting that your body is perfectly designed to be a perfect conduit to fully express divine wisdom, divine love, and divine presence. You are designed perfectly to do that. I remember I was watching that movie Concussion, and I think the doctor, he had an onion in a little mason jar with a little bit of water, and he was shaking it around saying that the human being is not designed to play football. And I'm like, wow, amazing that we're making progress. It's 2017, and we're actually going to think about it for 2 seconds going, I wonder why we're here. I want this whole thing of these coincidences are happening. I notice how lessons, they keep coming back. I'm like, so why do you think they keep coming back? Is it just because life has a great sense of humor? Or do you think life is preparing you for something greater than you? So do you want it to happen to you? Or do you want to consciously participate and maybe even accelerate the process? How many of you have noticed today in our world that the lessons come back even quicker? Have you noticed the synchronicities? Have you noticed that you can't get away with anything, that the tightrope is even tighter than it's ever been? And some people say, boy, life is difficult. I'm like, no, it's even easier than it's ever been. The feedback is coming. At the same time, any illness, any dis-ease that is happening in your body is life trying to get your attention. Not to hurt you. It's not out to get you. You didn't do anything wrong. If you're out of alignment, it's trying to help you get in alignment. Your connection is how you heal. Imagine that you heal from what you give and not from what you get. Now, I was given 15 months to live when I was 18 years old, so that's a pretty good attention getter, right? I was one of those hockey players, those goaltenders? We keep all our teeth, we just lose our minds, right? And at the same time, I've been trying to lose my mind my whole life, right? At the same time, to get out of the mind and actually into the heart, to understand the heart is the bridge to the higher self. In the Gita, they call it breaking through the veil. Buddha calls it enlightenment. What did Jesus say? When thine eye be single, your body shall be filled with what? With light. Now, when you activate your body as a perfect temple, you'll feel it like a steel rod in your spine. You'll feel it right from the base of your spine. It feels like a steel rod, and you can feel spirit. You can feel the angels practically guiding you around and carrying you. And you can feel your spine come alive. You can feel your body come alive. And all of a sudden, with the purest of intentions, you know how to serve every soul that you meet. Imagine that wherever you go, you see God. You see a perfect expression of God, regardless of where they are on their journey. And your only intention is to serve their soul's highest good. So you have to be open and available to receive the information, to receive the wisdom, to know how to serve them. Maybe they need someone to listen. Maybe they need a hug. Maybe they just need one little word to help them connect the dots. Or maybe it's just a little bit of compassion because of what they're experiencing in their life. So imagine that if we begin to look at life, that life is perfectly set up for you and me to fulfill our Christ consciousness, this duality. Isn't that beautiful? I love that when Jesus said, when thine eye be single. How many people do you know who live in a world of right and wrong and good or bad? Do you know a lot of people caught in that world of judgment? Imagine that if we just saw good everywhere, if we saw God in every person, that we didn't think anything was good or bad. What we saw is that it was happening for me, that life is giving you feedback to support your soul's growth and healing. Isn't that interesting? So imagine that life knows more than you know, because if you're coming from your conscious mind, all you know is what you know and what you've read in books, but there's a whole other wisdom that is, imagine that, there's billions of people on the planet, and for every single person, just like the law of gravity, it works perfectly and effortlessly for everyone. Would you agree? This law of life, how the lessons, they keep coming back, it works purposely and effortlessly for every human being on the planet, regardless of your race or your religion. Imagine how intelligent you have to be. Look at the whole way that science is designed, the intelligent design of the whole human system. Look at what makes grass grow. When you cut yourself, what is the life-giving force that creates and restores your body? It knows exactly what to do. But you get to participate in the process. This is why we're here, to be in alignment. Does that make sense? We can accelerate the process. So how do we do that? Is we begin to see God everywhere. So I would encourage you as part of the spiritual exercise of being here. I meet a lot of people as I go around speaking who they kind of, in some ways, they want to live as long as they can because they don't want to die. At the same time, they don't want to die because they're not really sure about what's next. I've met some people who go to a lot of different churches because they're not really sure who's right. They kind of want to have all their bases covered. And I kind of was curious one day. I was like, well, you know that every one of those churches tells you that the kingdom of heaven is within, right? So what are you waiting to die for? Because as soon as you die, you're going to realize, oh, I missed the opportunity of a lifetime. Right? Isn't that interesting? So again, our kingdom of heaven is our connection. Hell is our separation. How do we connect? We connect through alignment. We connect through the heart, not through the mind. Isn't that interesting? That the heart is how we activate the rest of the brain. How many of you have heard before that we use, 10% of our brain? And then what? We go on to go, who won the game last night? I won't ask Danelle who won the game last night, because she already told me who won. She already told me. I'm not going there. Not going there. Right? But isn't it amazing how we get so distracted by what's going on the outside, right? Rather than, like I said, I was given 15 minutes to live over not 30, I guess it was like over 20 years ago. And I used to sit there in front of the neurosurgeon, and they'd look at my MRIs from when I was 18, and they would look at my current MRIs, and you know what I would hear from every neurosurgeon? He would look at them, and he'd go, And it was very predictable after a while. And I would ever find a neurosurgeon with a sense of humor? It's a very rare thing. If it even exists, I don't know if it exists. But finally, I had to ask one surgeon, and he said, just keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. And I'm like, dude, pretend I was from California at the time, I'm like, dude, can you give me a little more than that? And he says, well, looking at your MRIs, you should have been dead a long time ago. So he said, everything I know about medicine, you shouldn't be here. So I don't know, all I can tell you to do is keep doing what you're doing. I'm like, just a question. Aren't you curious? I mean, don't you want to know? Aren't you begging, oh my God, tell me, what on earth have you discovered that I don't know, and I can't wait to learn from you? And he's like, no, not really. I said, that's really interesting. I said, so what do you think? I said, do you believe that thoughts have the power to cause an illness? And he says, yeah, I can live with that. I said, well, if thoughts have the power to cause an illness, do you think that thoughts have the power to cure an illness? He goes, well, now you're getting a little bit, He goes, I could maybe go there, I said, do you believe that we're divine beings? That this didn't happen to me, that this was happening for me, that life was getting my attention to get me on my soul's mission and on my soul's path. That in fact, I knew at the very moment that I had the surgery that this was life taking me on the right direction. I knew the moment they told my parents, let him do whatever he wants, he won't be here for very long. I knew, because every cell of my being was telling me that this was perfect. It wasn't happening to me, it was perfect. It was exactly life taking me exactly where I needed to go to learn the things I needed to do the things that I was here for. And I remember being at the neurosurgeon's office, and half my head was shaved, and I had a big scar on my head, and he was shaking my hand, and you know what's really fun when a neurosurgeon shakes your hand and says, good luck. It's almost as bad as having 50,000 people screaming at you that you suck, at a hockey game. But it was really interesting, and I said, doctor, thank you so much for saving my life, for inserting the tube and doing your job. I said, but don't worry about it, I got it from here. And I wasn't trying to be a goalie, right? Trying to be that, I really felt it. I felt it with every part of my being. And there's this connection that is beyond faith. Have you ever known something but you don't know how you know, you just know that you know? Imagine when you live in that moment. Every moment you just know that you know. Every person that you meet, you don't know how you know, you just know exactly what they need. And you are there to serve their soul's highest good. And it is with the purity of this intention that you are in alignment, because you know that life is always serving your soul's highest good 24/7. And if you knew life was serving your soul's highest good, would you resist life? Would you be asking God for something other than what is, because you don't think what is right? Isn't that interesting? Jesus didn't say, my will be done, did he? He said what? Thy will be done. Of myself I can do everything? Or did he say, of myself I can do nothing? That it is God within me that does the work. That is activating this causal, life-giving force. That is the creative force that creates, sustains, and restores all of life. It's how we're here. It is equal and impartial, just like the law of gravity. And it is waiting for you to recognize it, to align with it, and then you can activate it through complete surrender, complete trust. And when you finally go there and your body becomes alive, all of a sudden all the illness, there is no room for dis-ease when you are fully connected. Does that make sense? It is the connection. When you cut yourself, your body knows how to heal. Dis-ease is when we're out of alignment. And it's not happening to you, it's giving you feedback. Just like the law of gravity, it's giving you feedback so you can see exactly what you need to change. It's supporting your growth. Does that make sense? So imagine how many people go through life feeling like victims. If you're a victim, can you be in heaven? What's the opposite of a victim? Oh, I like that. That's very good. Right? How about a servant? Right? A victim is happening to you, and you got to tell everybody all the things that are wrong in your life. Right? And if you're a servant, what are you there to do? So this is a life-giving force. Do you notice it's not called a life-getting force? Isn't that interesting? The causal force of life, the very essence of life, the nature of love is to give unconditionally to serve the highest good. How many of you can go about your business every day that the new meditation, folks, for this new energy, this new era that we are on the brink of, the new meditation is with your eyes open. The new meditation is to see God equally and impartially in everything, in every situation, in every person, everywhere that you are, that you can see it, God, you can feel it through every cell, every atom of your body is alive, your spine, your third eye, you can feel it, you can feel God, you can feel that you are. There is no separation, there is no limitation, there is no duality anywhere. There is just pure heaven. Isn't that amazing? And that's available 24/7. How many people like the movie Star Wars? Right? You hear the idea, may the force be with you. And that used to drive me nuts when I was a kid. Gotta be like, it's not about you, it's not about the force being with you, it's not about a matter of luck or chance or coincidence. Oh God, please be with me. You are the force. It is for you to be with the force. It is for you to be one with the force. It's to remember who you are, that you are the force. And the force is the causal life-giving force of all life. And that is why we are here. This is our awakening. Does that make sense? So it's not for you to be with, it's not for God to be with you, it's for you to be with God. Isn't that amazing? And it's that this awakening, this conscious awareness of that conscious union, that perfect union, that is where there is no disease. That is where we have harmony. That is where we have peace. That is where we transcend religion. Wouldn't that be great to get to this place in this new era where we transcend religion? We transcend politics, because guess what? What are we here for? To serve and support each other's highest good, because that is what life is doing for us. That is harmonic resonance. How many people know what harmonic resonance is? Right? How would you define it? Put you on the spot. Okay, so here we go. If we have two guitars in the same room and you click one key on one guitar, the other string on the other guitar without anybody touching it will begin to vibrate because it is at the same frequency. That is how in the Gita, how you break through the veil of separation and enter into the higher self, the higher consciousness. This is how we break through into the kingdom of heaven, is to have the purest of intentions so that we are in alignment. This is how you come to serve the highest good with complete giving love. How many people do you know who go through life seeking validation, approval, and recognition? Right? And you ever notice that it's never enough? I always find that curious. I'm like, aren't you curious yet? You know, it's never enough. The first million wasn't enough, the 10 million. You know, are you curious yet? You know, have life got your attention yet? Oh, you've got 10 months to live. Or, oh, you've got diagnosed with this. I'm like, does life have your attention yet? Are you awake? And they're like, what? You talking to me? Right? I remember my dad, when the heart surgery was a great awakener. And I remember after that, he started to actually pay attention to what he was eating. And he would say, did you know this, son? And I'm like, I'd be cracking up going, Dad, Mom's been telling you that as long as I've been breathing, just in case you missed it for the first, whatever. And I think I've told you that at least a couple of hundred times. He goes, oh, no. He never heard it before. Isn't that interesting? And so isn't that all that's awareness, this expansion of awareness? I remember my dad, after that, he got cancer, and the cancer came back. And it was funny how it came back in his body and how it affected him. And I was with him just on the last couple of months of his life. And it was such a privilege to be there, and so much healing going on so many different levels. And I remember my dad walking in the room, and he was looking at his body, he was looking at his hand. And we had this wonderful conversation. I said, pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. It's like the first time in his whole life he actually took the time to really notice it and go, wow, really intelligently designed. It's like really, like, it's like there's a higher purpose here, And I'm like, yeah, isn't that really cool? It's like this, I think they call it a temple, and it's built for community. You should read my book. And I gave him my book one time. My dad said, I found a spelling mistake. And I'm like, oh, well, thanks. I'll keep that in mind. At least I know you got on top of that, right? So this idea that humans in training, that we're in training and in healing to evolve to the Christ consciousness, the perfect union of soul and spirit, and life is a conspiracy. It is conspiring for you to fulfill this perfect union. It is supporting everything that is happening in your life is exactly what your soul needs. Thy will be done. You want to get into the flow of life, then learn to go with the flow of life, through trusting life, through giving love, through the purity of your intention to serve the highest good. Could it possibly be that simple? There is no room for deceit. There is no fear. There is no separation. Imagine that. There is no fear or anger when we know exactly what we're supposed to do. The only time we take the long route is when we try to get from life rather than give to life. And guess what? Whether it's the Gita, whether it's the Kabbalah, whether it's the teachings of Buddha, or the teachings of Jesus, it's the same fundamental truths. And I hate to tell people, but it's 2017, people. 2017, can you imagine? There's a great expansion and shift happening on the planet. So how about participating? We have a chance right here, common ground, independent. Isn't that spectacular? Independent. You're able to receive and accept. There is one God called by many names who is us all. The power, the substance, and the intelligence through which all life is created. The life of our spirit, the substance of our soul, the intelligence of our thought. So that I would encourage you to create the energy here, just like you're doing, and to, as you step out into the world, take the energy from here, take the energy from your meditation, and practice, just like a spiritual muscle, practice seeing God everywhere and having that pure intention. And when something happens in your life, try this just for an exercise. Trust. Trust that life knows what it's doing. It knows things that you don't know. And to go with the flow. There's no fear, there's no worry, there's no stress. Those are separators. Those are blocks from feeling the divine. If you go through life with total love and total trust, going with the flow, you'll experience so much unexpected, benevolent change. You will feel more blessings in your life than you have ever even dreamed of. And it's all there waiting for you. So realize this, it's for you to be in alignment, not for God to be with you. Does that make sense? So I hope that is something for you to think about. It's always a pleasure to be here. And this idea of the evolution of religion, the evolution of healing, and the evolution of leadership. That this is this new era, that we will be led from the awakening of God within, equal and impartial. All the old systems, whether it's economic or political, they're all in the process of changing. Change can look messy at times, but guess what? For a long time, people lived like the world was flat. And guess what? It still looks flat. What do we need to see the truth? We need a what? A higher perspective, right? From a higher perspective, we go, oh, it's not flat, it's actually round. Isn't that interesting? And then for a long time, people thought that the Earth was the center of the solar system. There's some people who still do, right? But imagine that, but from a higher perspective, what do we see? That the Earth is part of a galaxy, and that galaxy is part of a bigger galaxy. It's all about perspective. But when we start with the perspective of the purpose of life, does that make sense? This perfect union of soul and spirit, that life is a conspiracy, it knows what it's doing to help you, to support you. That's all it's doing is serving you all the time. So if you come from that place, from that perspective, we get to accelerate this connection. We get to accelerate heaven on earth. It's available right now. The world has never been at this energy where it is right now. There is great change taking place. It is the opportunity of a lifetime. So I would encourage you, participate, contribute. Everything you need, you already have. You are perfectly designed. And start off every day. Make every day your meditation. Make every thought a prayer. Give thanks every day and know that this is an opportunity. And just give that love. Give that service to everyone you meet. Just remind them how special they are. Remind them how important they are. Remind them that they have a gift to offer to the world. That everything that they need, they have. Wouldn't that be a great world to live in? Well, let's create that world together. So thank you so much. It's great to be here. Love you.